Greetings and welcome to another great episode of the Jump Off. This is your host, Doug, the Organic One, with another one. And yeah, today I want to talk to you guys about an observation that I've made. I would say kind of recently, but with the headlines, I've been putting a few cases together as far as just recognizing the intersection between entertainment and academia, and how it's never been an anomaly individually, but the outward display of one person embodying both always has seemed to create a level of turmoil that cannot be logically explained or discussed with the same reason and factual openness that we give an individual in each field individually. And that's always fascinated me because separately they're both praised and celebrated, yet when it's combined, it just creates friction and discomfort. And I just think that's odd. Once someone displays the capacity to excel in multiple worlds, fields, realms, there seems to be almost an automatic form of resistance, a type of social penetration testing to find the weak points and basically question their legitimacy and create pathways towards their exclusion. And at this point, it almost feels inevitable. And we've witnessed it firsthand with the Jaylen Brown phenomenon, MIT grad, NBA champion, MVP. So, a person criticized, questioned, or treated differently because he's not only an elite athlete, but also an engineer, a free thinker, and someone who's openly embraced intellectual curiosity and expressing. And he represents a rare combination that challenges the traditional expectation placed on entertainers and academics. Uh, and in searching for other examples, a few stories and more complex. Yeah, I would say more complex because it's a different approach. It's like basically a reframing of what we commonly accept in the scientific world. But Terrence Howard, he's built a legendary acting career, like receiving some of Hollywood's highest honors and recognitions, while also pursuing independent research and engineering interests that have sparked significant debates. And regardless of where people stand on his scientific theories, the larger conversation remains the most important, which is, why do we struggle to accept people that refuse to exist within singularity? Like, Terrence Howard has spoken about, his experience being ridiculed and dismissed when he's added or, went for peer reviews in academic space while being, you know, himself. Like, that's a part of him. He's an actor, but he's also an academic. And I think his ideas deserve, deeper examination. And the broader lesson is that we have to allow people the freedom to explore, create, and contribute in ways that they find meaningful. And we should not be, putting people in boxes, not limiting individuals based on the categories society has assigned them to or are used to seeing them in. And I think that's something that is rampant just in the large part of, each of these spaces, specifically academia and entertainment for today. But in general, people have a history of just putting people in the box and not allowing them to come out of the box, even though they may have uh high aptitudes in, whatever fields that they aspire to. But I don't get it. But I was watching the podcast. I believe it was Earn Your Leisure, and John Hope Bryant. He was speaking on like the devaluing that is culturally placed on education, and he said we should be making smart sexy again. And particularly within the conversation, it was surrounding the black community and the cultural influence of sports and entertainment, which we largely dominate. That idea connects directly to this intersection of growing up athletes, but also in being an athlete, majority of your journey to being an athlete is academia. So culturally, we have shifted from really indulging in celebrating excellence in multiple dimensions, and especially in the academic space, and sometimes treating intelligence as something separate from popular or success, or not an identity that you want to be closely connected to and venerated for on a large scale. And we see athletes who are falling for that, I would say, negative status quo for it. But yeah, I think we see athletes who get discouraged just from not wanting to be Steve Urkel or however you want to call it, or Poindexter. But yeah, embrace academics is somewhat of a conflict with the image expected of high level athletes. And we see entertainers sometimes distancing themselves from intellectuals and intellectual pursuits because being too thoughtful can be viewed as less desirable or less relatable. And this is an issue that definitely has to be addressed both organizationally and culturally. And sports organizations need to value, or I wouldn't even just say sports play organizations in general, just more so unacademic media should be embracing, you know, the intellectual community or development. But entertainment industries need to embrace that intelligence as part of creativity. And communities need to stop treating academic excellence as, something to be shown, or, cultural influence as, or anti culture per se. Because when these worlds intersect, everyone benefits. And I think it creates more ground for, connection and growth in that. And without it, we don't get Jaylen Brown. Like without that combination, we don't get Ryan Coogler. Like we don't get innovators, creators, and leaders who can move in between worlds without allowing people freedom of being multifaceted or multidimensional. And as an athlete, a former athlete who had the opportunity to continue playing sports at a collegiate level, I can honestly say I only can recall one instance where I was encouraged to fully embrace or lean into my academics. And that was alongside someone who was also a student athlete and excelling at academics as well as sports. And that experience stayed with me because it reveals something important, that the people who are allowed to develop themselves are often the ones who create the greatest impact. And ultimately, we need to embrace multifaceted individuals in their full capacity, because when we expand the space for people to connect in different disciplines, we create creativity, we increase creativity, accelerate progress, and inspire future generations to believe that they don't have to choose between being talented and intelligent, creative and successful. They don't have to choose. And there's a lot of intersection that is a path to, well, I guess it's a bridge, and it's more to be explored. Instead of them being two separate things, we can find that bridge to where it's a direct crossover and get something completely new. So again, I am your host, the Organic One, out of here with another Organic One. I enjoyed this one for sure. So I'm gonna catch y'all next week.